What's this? A letter for me.
Welcome back to another episode of Remember the Great Sports through the Mail Thursdays. I have 4 returns that I'm going to share with you today. So hopefully we got some good returns here, and we'll jump right into it and see who we got with the first one here. Well, looks like this one's signed on the back. Hopefully he signed the front as well. And it appears to be from former NBA star Lonnie Shelton. 1, 2, 3. And he did sign it on the front. It's kind of hard to see the Lonnie part, but I guess that's a dual signed card if you want to get technical. But Lonnie Shelton, longtime Seattle Supersonic, also played at Oregon State during his collegiate career, but very underrated center, power forward type. The Sonics were a very good team back in the 70s. I'm not positive if he was on their championship team or not. I would have to look that up, the year that the Sonics won under Lenny Wilkens. But Lonnie Shelton was a great college player at Oregon State, then played, it looks like on the back here, according to this card. Kind of messed up the sign there a little bit. Looks like he got drafted by the Knicks out of college in 1976. And the back of the card clearly says Lonnie is regarded as one of the premier players in the NBA. He's a combination of muscle and agility. Lonnie is an extremely accurate shooter with a soft outside jump shot for the Sonics. And this card is a 81 tops. And according to it, he averaged about 13.4 a game at this point in his career. So, very cool. Through the mail success. This is a College Greats Upper Deck card, SP Authentic, that I picked up a little while back. Looks like 2014-15 SP, according to the back of the card there. So there are some pretty nice cards of him out there. From what I understand, he's a pretty good through the mail signer. So if you have an opportunity to pick up any of the vintage cards of Mr. Shelton, or if you have access to these Upper Deck cards from the last couple of years, definitely grab a couple of them and stick them in the mail and ask him to sign them. Now these cards did need prep, so make sure that you baby powder or prep your cards before you do mail them to him. But thank you, Mr. Shelton. Very happy to add those to the collection for my NBA cards. Alright, this next one is postmarked from Lexington, Kentucky. And I think I know who this is based on where it's from. And this is a former Kentucky Wildcat great. And yes, it is. Kenny Sky Walker. And to give a little history on Mr. Walker, let's just see how many cards we have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So, wow. He signed them all for me. But to give a little history on Mr. Walker, and I'll show you these two top left cards, this top left card here. That's him throwing a slam dunk down, which is pretty awesome on this early 90s insert, I guess you would call it. Slam dunk champion card. And Kenny Walker was the 1989 All-Star Game slam dunk champ. Now, he was a very good collegiate player at the University of Kentucky, but he never really was able, there you can see 89 champion on the back of that one. He never really was able to perform at the NBA level that he did at the NCAA level. I know that he had a few injury issues during his career with the Knicks, and I think that had a lot to do with his ability to play at the level that he played at the collegiate level. I don't know, but just the history of the NBA, anytime you have somebody that is a high flyer like Mr. Walker was. One that comes to mind that many of you may remember was Antonio McDyess. I remember when Antonio McDyess came into the league, he was just one of the best dunkers in the league. And I know he had some injury issues, and I think Mr. Walker did as well, that just really hampered his dunking abilities. And he went from being an elite dunker to probably more or less being an average player. And once you start having issues with your jumping capabilities, your knees, your lower back, and that type of thing, you just can't play at the level. No matter how many surgeries and how many rehabs you go through, you just can't get back to that level that you once played at. Thank you, Mr. Walker, for signing the 5 cards. Again, if you have access to some of these cheaper 90s junk ball era basketball cards, this is a good one to add to your collection if you like the high flyers, the slam dunk champs from that era. Alright, this one is postmarked from Portland, so we will open this one up. And it is a former Portland Trail Blazer, as I remember writing him. And that is Mr. Bob Gross, or Gross. I apologize if I'm mistakenly saying his name. But Bob Gross was a very, very good forward for the Blazers. He was on their championship team that won. And he played at Long Beach State University in college. He was 6'6", 200 pounds. Kind of one of those lunch pail type of players. You know, he would get you about 6 or 7 rebounds a game, throwing about 10 points. Pretty good defender. You know, he was the guy that would defend, you know, probably the best player on the other team. You know, he was one of those type of players that I guess the best person I would like to compare him to is like maybe a Bruce Bowen or something like that. Probably not as good as Bruce Bowen, but that about the same size, about the same position. You know, Bowen wasn't much of a rebounder, but you know, this guy could throw you in about 10 points a game if you needed him to score. You know, he probably got most of his points off of second chance opportunities, meaning getting a rebound and putting it back into the hoop, because he was not the primary scoring threat on those Portland Trail Blazers teams. One of the greatest ever Portland Trail Blazers. I do not believe they've retired his number, only because I know Terry Porter wore number 30 as well later in his career. Thank you, Mr. Gross, for signing 4-4. Very happy to add those to the vintage basketball collection. And we've got one more last one here, who I believe is also a vintage basketball autograph. And there's my cat scratching in the background with his new scratching post. And there he goes. So there you go. We had an appearance by my cat. This one is postmarked from Little Rock, Arkansas. And it is, again, a vintage NBA card. And this one is one of the best unknown players, I think, in the NBA, or former NBA player, I should say, and that is Mr. Otis Birdsong. Looks like he signed that one in black and these in blue. Obviously, the blue ones look better, but this is the nicer card, so go figure, of course. But as you can see, he played for the Kansas City Kings. Yes, the Kansas City Kings. For many of you that are not aware of the Kings, the Sacramento Kings were at one time the Kansas City Kings. And the history of Kansas City Kings is they used to be the Cincinnati Royals. So when when the Royals decided to leave Cincinnati, they moved to Kansas City. And they said, well, what's a good name to name the new team? And they came up with the Kings. Well, obviously they did not stay in Kansas City. You know, that fell through, which is a shame, because I would love to go up to Kansas City to see an NBA game. where I currently live in Missouri, my closest NBA team, if I were to choose to go one, would be Oklahoma City or Memphis, which neither are in the state of Missouri. So either direction that I go, I've got about a 4 or 5 hour commute just to attend an NBA game. So kind of a shame. Kansas City's a lot closer for me. Would love the fact to see the NBA expand maybe in that region, but being that the Kansas City Kings failed there, unlikely that's ever going to happen. But as you can see on the bottom of this card, his new team is with the Nets, and that's what this card kind of signifies. And this is one of his Upper Deck Legends cards. And this kind of shares, oh, he also played for the Celtics for a season, maybe the last year of his career. But this is really only showing his stats from 84 to 89, which doesn't give him justice, because this card only goes to 81, but up until 1981, he averaged 21 points a game for Kansas City. So he was their go-to guy. And I have a couple missing years here, but even when he was with the Nets, he averaged 20 a game, at least in 84, 85. So I would assume, from 82 to 85, he averaged about 20 a game. His lifetime career average is 18 points a game. So after he, started to slow down in his career, it looks like he only played 7 games in 86, 87. So that means that he probably got injured that year and wasn't able to come back to full capacity after that. So 3 of 3 from Otis Birdsong. Not sure who these other 2 players on the Kings are. Got a little bit of a smudge on that, but not a big deal. I'd have to do a little research on who Mr. King and Mr. Ford are, and perhaps I'll look them up and see if they're willing to sign through the mail. I might send that to them, but I'd hate to lose my Otis Birdsong if they're not good through the mail signers. So, in closing, thank you very much for watching. Got a nice little stack of NBA autographs to add to the collection. If any of the viewers are looking to expand their collection, I certainly would recommend contacting some of the retired NBA players, because I hate to have a bias against today's NBA, but I feel that so many of these older players like Lonnie Shelton, Bob Gross, and Otis Birdsong, they would be multiple All-Stars today. I feel that some of the talent in the NBA couldn't even match up to these type of players, and these aren't even household names, so to speak. There's not too many people who even know who these players are. So I think a lot of these retired players really enjoy the fact that they're remembered, and if you want to build your autograph collection, this is the best way to do it. In closing, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for future Through the Mail Thursday videos.